Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The ceremonies to bid a final farewell to the former Prime Minister of Poland, Jan Olszewski, are underway. The funeral mass for the former Premier, who died on February the 7th at the age of 88, will take place in Warsaw on Saturday, February the 16th.
At 9 o'clock, the coffin was brought to the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland. The coffin was carried in by close associates of Jan Olszewski, including Antoni Macierewicz, Piotr Naimski and Jan Paris. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki with his cabinet ministers and Law and Justice Party leader Jarosław Kaczyński paid tribute to Jan Olszewski. A book of condolence has been placed in the lobby of the Chancellery of the Prime Minister of Poland. The main funeral ceremonies will take place on Saturday. At 11 a.m., a funeral mass will be celebrated in the Archcathedral of St. John the Baptist. Jan Olszewski died on February 7th at the age of 88. He was a prime minister, defender of opposition activists and political processes during the communist period, advisor to President Lech Kaczyński and Knight of the Order of the White Eagle.
It was a very important government. Jan Olszewski dealt with a few cases, including those related to Russian bases in Poland. The idea of the then president Lech Wałęsa was to create Polish-Russian companies there. In fact, this was a Russian idea adopted by Wałęsa. If it had been carried out, we would have to deal with the continued presence of Russian troops in Poland.
National mourning following the death of former Prime Minister Jan Olszewski began at midnight. It will continue until 7 p.m. on Saturday.
According to the Israeli daily newspaper, the Jerusalem Post, the Israeli Prime Minister, during his visit to the Museum of the History of Polish Jews, said that Poles collaborated with Nazis during the Holocaust. These inaccurate words have caused a diplomatic crisis between Poland and Israel.
During a conference with Israeli media, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu supposedly said that the Poles had helped the Germans kill Jews during the Holocaust. This quote was published by Haaretz and the Times of Israel. Meanwhile, yesterday evening, the Jerusalem Post published a quote according to which the Prime Minister of Israel said it was not the Poles but the Polish nation who collaborated with Nazis during the extermination of Jews. Netanyahu's words in Jerusalem Post caused a heated diplomatic crisis between Poland and Israel. So much so that the V4 Group Summit scheduled to take place in Israel next week is now in question, with Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki's attendance uncertain. Polish President Andrzej Duda offered his residence in Wisła as an alternative venue for the summit. If the statement of Prime Minister Netanyahu was as quoted by the media, I am willing to make the residence of the Polish President in Wisła available for the V4 Group Summit. At the moment, Israel is not a suitable place for the meeting, despite previous arrangements. Late last night, the ambassador of Israel tried to ease the tension by sending a letter to the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki.
The information provided by the Jerusalem Post regarding the statement of Prime Minister Netanyahu is false. I was present at the Prime Minister's briefing and he did not say the Polish nation collaborated with the Nazis. He only mentioned that no one had yet been sued for mentioning the Poles who did collaborate.
After the clarification by Ambassador Azari, the chief of the Chancellery of the Polish president, Krzysztof Szczerski, wrote that the Israeli side had set the record straight. We have received an official clarification from Israel regarding the alleged quote from the Prime Minister of Israel. It seems that the article in Jerusalem Post is an example of malicious journalistic manipulation. Luckily, the situation was resolved after our intervention. It is safe to say that the Middle East summit in Warsaw has brought Poland more harm than good.
The President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, and the Vice President of the United States, Michael Pence, and their wives visited the former Nazi German concentration camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. The President and the Vice President paid tribute to the victims in the place of the extermination of Jews and the martyrdom of Poles and other nationalities.
The President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, and the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, laid wreaths in front of the Wall of Death in Block 11 in the former Nazi German concentration camp at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Both presidents paid tribute to the victims. The Germans shot hundreds of thousands of prisoners there, including women and children. Later, they visited the cell 11 of the Polish prisoner of Auschwitz, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, who gave up his life for a fellow prisoner. He was beatified in 1971 by Pope John Paul II and was canonized 11 years later. The presidents also visited a permanent exhibition dedicated to the extermination of Jews, which was prepared by the Yad Vashem Institute in Jerusalem. After that, both presidents went to the former Auschwitz-Birkenau camp located 3 kilometers away where the Germans mass exterminated the Jews. This place is also a symbol of the martyrdom of the Roma and Polish nations.
The Polish daily newspaper, Gazeta Wyborcza, which continues to attack Law and Justice Party leader Jarosław Kaczyński, has fallen into its own trap. Today, a headline of an article in the newspaper suggested that Jarosław Kaczyński had received an envelope containing a bribe from the Austrian businessman Gerhard Bergfellner. The businessman's lawyer, Roman Giertych, refuted the allegation, and later the deputy editor-in-chief of the newspaper did the same. A spokesperson for the Law and Justice Party said in a statement to the media that the lawyers would now deal with the matter.
The newspaper printed a long story describing what allegedly took place in its envelope gate revelations. The final step taken by the Austrian businessman in handing the envelope to Jarosław Kaczyński was supposedly to visit the Law and Justice Party headquarters, where he handed the envelope to an unknown person. The businessman does not have any recording of this, despite the fact that he recorded all the other meetings with people involved in the skyscraper project. He does not remember the person, but remembers that later Jarosław Kaczyński had this alleged envelope in his hands. The final destination of that envelope supposedly was a priest who is nowhere to be found.
I did file a notice about committing a crime, about allegedly committing a crime by Jarosław Kaczyński in this matter. Here is the document which I will file at the prosecutor's office. We want the district attorney to investigate whether the testimony of the Austrian businessman is true. I did file a notice about committing a crime, about allegedly committing a crime by Jarosław Kaczyński in this matter. Here is the document which I will file at the prosecutor's office. We want the district attorney to investigate whether the testimony of the Austrian businessman is true. Jarosław Kaczyński is a man of high principles and is undoubtedly an honest person. These are unfounded allegations, mudslinging, and this is a gutter level of attack. I personally resent it. I think that the party will take legal steps to fight it.
Civic Platform Party wants the next parliamentary session to be held as a closed session. The reason is the demand for the Attorney General to deliver a report to the session about the Austrian businessman's tapes revealed by Gazeta Wyborcza.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, business and more from Poland daily. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.